All right, so the Democrats proposed two amendments on the floor today. One amendment was to have a very limited, reasonable restriction on gun ownership in parks for a very finite time period. The amendment said that a city that was in imminent danger could set up a limited time period on gun, a limited use of gun for the parks if they have a specific threat in mind. And the limited use on gun could last no longer than 48 hours. And I sponsored that amendment. I sponsored that because of what happened in the city of Memphis a couple years ago. A couple years ago in the city of Memphis, we made national news when the Ku Klux Klan promised to have a large protest rally in the city of Memphis, and they wanted to have the rally in our parks. As it turns out, we have a permitting process, pretty elaborate permitting process for those kind of things, and so we redirected them to another public space, and we set up an elaborate security plan to respond to their request for a permit to stage a protest. The reason why we did this in the city of Memphis is because the Ku Klux Klan came to town before, and when they came to town before and had a large protest, there was violence, there was tear gas, there were arrests. And so we wanted to be well prepared this time around. And part of our preparation included a ban on guns in that public space. But we had the legal authority to do it at that time. And so with the General Assembly movement in this direction, we can no longer do that. And so the amendment merely says, just to, not to be too long-winded, the amendment merely said that cities should still have this tool when they view a real threat to the citizenry of the city, that they could limit gun use in some of these public spaces, but only for 48 hours. Because, Democrats are aware of the Second Amendment, and we're not against the Second Amendment. We just want people to be safe. And we trust our law enforcement officials in the various cities and municipalities when it's in their judgment that people will be unsafe if we don't have a temporary ban. And so that's what I proposed. The Second Amendment was also sponsored by Democrat Jeff Yarbro, sponsored that amendment. And it basically said that here, we've got to be principled about our legislation. And we've got to be fair. And that we can't have citizens in the various municipalities exposed to a risk that we're not willing to bear ourselves. And that if they're going to be exposed to risk, that we should be exposed to the same risk here in the state capitol. That you shouldn't legislate and overregulate. You shouldn't legislate in a way that affects somebody else's backyard if you're not willing to accept the ramification of your legislation in your own house. And so that was the purpose of the amendment. It passed, and in fact, it passed unanimously. I voted for it because my votes are all votes of principle. And also, I thought that it had some strategic value because I hoped that at least if we had a bill like that, that it would make some rank and file Republicans more hesitant about supporting the overall bill because they see some of the silliness in it. It didn't work, but we did pass a poison pill. The problem is that the Republicans decided to swallow the poison pill. It's something that you can't predict. But hopefully, when this bill hits the House, they'll be a little bit more sober-minded. Hopefully, when the governor sees this bill and sees all the implications of this bill, he'll be sober-minded and he'll reject it out of hand. Because, the moral of this story, as I said before, is don't swallow poison pills.
And then, I wanted to...
Is the judiciary started?
They're about to, so we need to wrap up.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to have to do the school credentialing thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got to go.